I was carrying divorce papers that felt heavier than lead sitting inside my bag, and the weight of them had been crushing my chest for 3 straight days. My name is David, and I am a CEO of a mid-sized tech company, and for 22 years I have been married to a woman whose name I still whisper in my sleep, even though I believe she no longer wants to hear it. She filed the separation papers inside her mind long before I ever held them in my hands. I just did not have the courage to see it coming. I make decisions every single day that affect hundreds of lives. I fire people, I hire people, I negotiate contracts worth millions of dollars, and I do it all without blinking. But when it came to the one thing that actually mattered to me, I was paralyzed by my own fear. We had stopped speaking to each other in ways that meant something. We communicated through logistics. The car needs new tires. I will be home late. Do not wait up. Did you pay the insurance? These were the conversations that had replaced the ones where we stayed awake until 3 in the morning, discussing our dreams about where we wanted to travel, about books we wanted to read, about the future we were building together. Now the future was ending. On Thursday, I cut out of work early to meet with my attorney. The papers were all prepared, everything was ready to go, and I sat across from her desk listening to her explain my rights and her rights and the way we would divide the things we had built together. Whole meeting felt surreal, like I was watching it happen to someone else. I had 2 hours before I needed to be home to have the conversation that would end everything. So I drove through the city without any destination in mind, and somehow I found myself at a small café called Riverside, in the artsy part of town. My wife had mentioned this place once months ago. She had said the coffee was good, and the atmosphere felt like home. I had filed that information away without really hearing her, and now I was sitting here because I had nowhere else to go. I ordered coffee and tried to work on some contracts, but my mind kept drifting to the envelope inside my bag. The divorce papers that I had signed 3 days earlier in private, thinking that this was the kindest thing I could do for her. I was going to set her free. I was going to let her go find someone better. Someone who could give her the social, charming version of themselves that she deserved. Someone who was not me. Then I heard a laugh that stopped my heart cold. It was her laugh, that specific melody that had drawn me to her all those years ago, that exact sound that had made me fall in love with her when we first met. I looked up through the gap in the bookshelf, and there, she was sitting at a table with 3 other women by the window. She was laughing at something Eleanor had just said, and for the first time in months, I saw her looking genuinely happy. It destroyed me because that happiness was not coming from me. Anymore, one of the women was saying that she did not understand how my wife put up with me. She called me cold, like some kind of machine that functioned but had no real feeling. Another woman added that I never showed emotion, that I seemed completely detached from everything and everyone around me. Eleanor was listing my failures in excruciating detail. The gallery opening where I stood silent the whole night. The dinner with the Whitakers where I stayed for 1 hour because I was exhausted. The way I could not manage to be the social, charming version of myself that my wife deserved to bring to these events. My chest felt so tight I thought my heart might stop beating. Every single word they said was confirming the darkest thoughts I had been having about myself. I was broken. I had failed her. She was miserable because of me. The kindest thing I could do was disappear from her life. But then my wife spoke, and her voice sounded like steel cutting through all their noise and judgment. Said that I was not cold. She said that I was exhausted. She told them that I had worked 18 hours the day of the Whitaker dinner, that I had come home and showered and changed my clothes and driven across the entire city because she had asked me to go and she wanted to be there with her friends. She said I was running on 4 hours of sleep because I was trying to close a merger that would save 200 people from losing their jobs. She talked about my car and what I had done for her without making it a big deal, without asking for any credit or recognition. She said I had just noticed that she was worried, so I had handled it because that was what you did when you loved someone. She talked about the notes. She said I had been leaving little sticky notes inside her books for years. She said I had been writing down thoughts and underlining passages that I thought she would want to read, because we had stopped talking to each other and I was desperately trying to create something that we could still share. She talked about our Sunday mornings, our 15-year tradition of sitting together with coffee and talking about books and ideas and the things that actually mattered in our lives. She said we had been doing that the whole time while her friends thought we had nothing left to say to each other. She said the real problem was not me at all. She said the real problem was that she had been drowning trying to maintain this social life and perform for these people, and it was exhausting her so completely that she had nothing left when she came home to me. She said that when she got home, she was so drained and empty from all the performing that she brought that negative energy into our house, and I could feel it, and I started pulling away, thinking that I was the cause of her unhappiness. She said we had created this horrible cycle where she was trying to fit into two completely different worlds, and she was breaking under the weight of it, and I was trying to figure out what I had done wrong, and we were both drowning separately instead of saving each other. Then she stood up. She said she was done with the book club. She said she was done with the performances and the constant socializing. That left her feeling empty and hollow. She said she was choosing her marriage. She said goodbye, and she meant it. I watched as Eleanor and one of the other women stood up and walked out angry that someone would dare choose her own life and her own happiness over their friendship. The third woman stayed for a moment looking confused and lost, and then she apologized quietly and she left too. And then my wife sat down at that table and she cried. Not a dramatic sobbing cry, but those quiet, exhausted tears of someone who had been carrying way too much weight for way too long. I should have immediately gone to her and held her, but I was frozen in place, processing everything and realizing how completely wrong I had been about our entire situation. After a few minutes, she cleaned her face and pulled out her phone, and she typed out a message, and I saw it arrive on my phone. Working late tonight, do not wait up. And in that moment, I understood something crucial. She was not avoiding me. She was protecting me. She was trying to pull herself together before she walked through the front door so that I would not see her this destroyed. She did not want me to worry. She did not want me to feel the weight of her exhaustion on top of everything else I was already carrying. I made my move. I stood up and straightened my jacket, and I walked around the bookshelf to her table. She looked up and her face went pale as she realized I might have heard her defending me. How long have you been sitting there? She whispered. Long enough. I said, long enough to hear you stand up for me, and long enough to realize I was about to make the biggest mistake of my entire life. I pulled the manila envelope from my bag and I placed it on the table in front of her. I did not explain it. I did not open it. I just let it sit there like a confession. She stared at the envelope and then she looked back at me, and very slowly it started to click what I had been about to do. No, she whispered. Were you actually going to do it? Thought you were miserable? I said. My voice was steadier than I felt. I thought I was failing you. Every time we went anywhere, I saw disappointment in your eyes. Every conversation we had just died out and stopped making sense. I thought the best thing I could do for you was to let you go and set you free. Let me go. She looked devastated. I never wanted to be away from you. I wanted to be away from them. She pointed to where her friends had been sitting. I wanted to stop the performing and the judgment. They were convincing me that our marriage was completely broken when it was not. But we hardly talk anymore. I said, we hardly touch. We are like two roommates who share a mortgage and nothing else. She reached across the table and she took my hand. And it was the first time she had touched me like that in months. We are just two exhausted people who forgot how to keep the world out of our business. She said, we forgot how to protect what we have from all the outside voices that do not matter. Turned my hand over and locked my fingers with hers. I am worn out too, I told her. The merger, the office politics, the weight of every single decision. I come home with nothing left in the tank. And then it felt like you needed me to be the social charming guy, and I just could not be that person anymore. I let you down. I added, you never let me down, she said firmly. I am the one who failed us. I let those friends come first. I let their voices get inside my head until I started looking at you. Through their eyes instead of my own, I forgot why I fell in love with you the first place. We just sat there holding hands across that small table and watching years of misunderstanding and hurt finally start to untangle and come apart. What happened to us? I finally asked. We used to be so solid. We were a team. We could handle anything. Together? Emotional burnout. She said softly. for both of us. We have been running on empty for so long. We forgot we were supposed to be each other's recharge station, not just another thing draining our energy. She was right. I had been so buried in my work and in being the provider and the decision maker that I had stopped seeing our marriage as something I needed to actually take care of and nurture. And she had been so busy trying to keep up with a social life that she had worn herself thin, trying to live in two worlds that just did not fit together anymore. I do not want a divorce, I said, and it felt so obvious now, like I had been blind and stupid for months. I want my wife back. I want our Sunday mornings and the notes in the books. I want to be with someone who understands that just because we are quiet does not mean that something is wrong. I do not want one either, she said, and she gave my hand a gentle squeeze. I want to remember how to be us again without everyone else. Input. No more performances. Just USI took that envelope, and without even opening it, I ripped it right down the middle. Then I tore it again, and again. The scraps fell onto the white table like the remains of a disaster. We had almost suffered. Where do we even start? I asked. She looked at the torn pieces of paper, and then she looked back at me, and for the first time in months she gave me a real, genuine smile. We start going home, she said. We start admitting we have been so busy surviving that we forgot to actually live. We start remembering why we chose each other in the first place. We walked out of that cafe together, and it felt strange walking side by side, holding hands. It was a simple thing we had given up on such a long time ago, thinking. It was too much to manage when we were both carrying bags and phones and the weight of our own separate lives. In the car, the silence did not feel heavy anymore. It felt like a fresh start, like we had stepped into a new world. She was the one to break. I need to tell you something, she said, looking straight through the windshield. After this semester, I am taking a break from my PhD. My first instinct was to tell her not to. She had worked so hard. She was so close to finishing. But I caught myself. And I asked why instead. Because I am drowning, she admitted. Between teaching and classes and research and trying to keep up that social life, I am spread so thin I have nothing left for anyone. Especially you. I need to step back and remember what actually matters. Your degree matters, I said carefully. Your work is important. Yeah, but not more than my life, she said, and she turned to look at me. Not more than we do. I was so scared of looking like I had given up or traded my goals for my marriage, that I kept pushing even when it was breaking me and breaking us apart. I pulled into the driveway of the house we had lived in for 12 years, but one that had stopped feeling like a home a while back. We sat there for a minute before I spoke up. I'm going to start handing off more stuff at work, I said. I have been terrified that if I am not micromanaging every little thing, the whole place will collapse and fail. But I have built a good team. I need to trust them. I need to stop acting like being exhausted is some kind of trophy or badge of honor. We have both been acting like martyrs, she observed. Sacrificing our marriage for the sake of being productive or fitting in or proving something to people who never actually cared about us. Went inside together and the house felt different, or maybe we just felt different being in it. We ended up in the kitchen, and I did something I had not done in over a year. I cooked. It was not anything fancy or elaborate, just some pasta, and that simple. Red sauce I used to make all the time when we were first starting out, when we had nothing but time and dreams and each other. She sat at the counter and we just talked. We really talked. She told me about her struggles with her dissertation and how her advisor had been incredibly difficult and unsupportive. I told her about the merger, about the sleepless nights, about the weight of making decisions that changed people's lives. Why did we not talk about this sooner, she asked. Because talking takes energy neither of us had, I told her. And because we started trying to protect each other from our problems instead of just sharing them, we got too independent, too separate. We stopped being partners. We were just two people living side by side, only talking when we had to coordinate something about household logistics or schedules. She agreed. Over dinner at the kitchen table with no TV and no phones, just us, we made a plan. Not some big grand promise that would not last, but small, manageable things we could actually do. Sunday mornings were now off limits to the rest of the world. No phones, no plans, no social obligations. Just coffee and us. We would do a weekly check-in for 15 minutes to talk about how we were actually doing. Not just what chores needed to be done, or what tasks needed to be completed. She was putting the PhD on hold with no shame and no feeling of defeat. I was going to block out 2 nights a week to be home by 6 o'clock no matter what. My team could handle anything. That came up without me, and we were going to stop saying yes to things just because we felt like we had to. If we both did not want to go, then we were not going. What about friends, she asked. I pretty much burned those bridges today. You will make new ones, I said. Or maybe we will realize we are enough for each other right now. They would say that is unhealthy, she pointed out. That we are isolating ourselves. Let them talk, I told her. We are not isolating. We are being picky. We are protecting what matters, instead of putting on a show for people who do not actually care about us. That night we broke another habit. We did not stay on our own sides of the bed. We ended up in the middle, talking and talking and talking in the dark like we did when we first bought the place. She told me she had missed me even though I had been right there the whole time. I told her I had been so sure I was failing her that I had just stopped trying. I heard what you said in the cafe, I told her. About me not being cold, just tired. About how I show love through what I do. Did you mean? That every word she said, I never wanted to be away from you. I just forgot how to show it in a way you could see. I need to say it more. I admitted. The actual words I love you. I assumed. You knew, but assumptions are how we got into this. Mess, I love you too, she whispered. I never stopped. I just forgot how to hear it. The next morning was Saturday, and we did something totally radical. We did absolutely nothing. We slept in and made breakfast together, and we spent the entire afternoon on the back porch with our books just existing next to each other. On Sunday over coffee, she asked me what I was going to say when I gave her those papers. I had a whole speech ready. I admitted about how you deserved someone better, someone more social, more open, more of everything I am not. Thank God you heard that conversation, she said. Even though I wish it had not come to that, I wish I had stood up sooner. We both dropped the ball there. I said we let people from the outside define our marriage instead of doing it ourselves. So now we take it back. We decide what success looks like for us. Looking back a few months later, I realized how close we came to losing everything. Those papers are just scraps now sitting in the recycling bin. That overheard conversation saved us. But it was more than that. It was finally seeing that our marriage was not broken. We were just burned out from trying to be people we are not for an audience that did not matter. My wife took that break from her PhD. She is taking her time to see if she really wants it or if she was just trying to prove something to herself and everyone else. I fixed things at work. I promoted some good managers and I got my evenings back. The merger went through just fine without me hovering over every detail. We are not perfect. We still have bad days and moments where we feel disconnected, but now we see the signs. We talk. We fix it together. Those friends, my wife has not heard from Eleanor since Margot apologized a few weeks later and they grabbed coffee, but with clear boundaries this time. My wife is building a smaller, real circle of people who actually like both of us. Last week, she left a note in my book. Thank you for staying. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being exactly who you are. I wrote back in hers. Thank you for defending us. Thank you for choosing us. I choose you again. Every single time. We are building something stronger now. Something that can handle the storms and the slow wear and tear of life. Something built on being honest instead of just guessing. I almost walked out my wife. Instead, I walked back in. And every Sunday morning, I remember exactly why that work is worth it. Every time she leaves. A note, I remember that marriage is not about being perfect or performing or becoming someone else. It is about two tired people deciding they matter more than anyone else's opinion. It is about choosing each other when it would be easier to walk away. It is about realizing that the person you almost left is actually the only person you wanted to stay with all along.